We're at a point where there is so much information being generated, not just data, not just the transactional kind of data that we're used to generating out of our operational systems and companies, but there's so much data going on around us that we're having trouble starting to understand it, having trouble trying to capture it, having trouble trying to make sense of it as we go forward. Whether it is social data, whether it's data being generated from geolocation devices on mobile phones, whether it's data coming out of your operational systems, it's the intersection of all of those different data sources that really provide the unique insights that are going to drive those business model changes that we were talking about. Bill talked about the Internet of Things, the idea of sensor data being generated, the digitization of the physical world. The sensors that are being put into everything around us are going to generate so much information, it's going to create a flood. And in fact, if we look at that data right now, we see the typical exponential curve that we always see, and the growth is always out in front of us. That's what I love about these exponential curves. We're never quite at the growth, but what's different about this particular curve is look at the end date. That's 2 years from now. That's not 10 years in the future, that's 2 years from now. Look at where we are today and how much data is going to be generated over the next 2 years. We're generating more data every 2 years now than we have from the beginning of time through 2003 or 4. How can we leverage the fact that we know where people are as they're walking down the street? How can we leverage the fact that we know where they are when they're walking around in a store? How can we actually detect and start to target those individuals with the right offer at the right time in the right place? How do we actually relocate our employees in a store to actually intercept the high value and high net worth buyers as they enter the store? How do we help guide them to the right part of the store to make their shopping experience unique, special, and valuable to the company that's guiding them? Those are the challenges that the executives are trying to face. The answers actually lie within the data that's being generated from all these different sources. One of the questions that we get asked often, all right, and it gets swirled around the industry, is cloud, is big data, is Hadoop going to be the end of traditional relational databases and Oracle and DB2 and all of those systems? No. The underlying enterprise data is growing very, very quickly, but not at the same rate as all of the other sources of data, right? So why would that be as these new things come around, right? One of the things to think about is these mobile devices, these social media systems, the reach of the internet. Every time you check your bank balance, you deposit a check using your mobile phone, you're driving transactions on back-end systems, right? The reach of the technology has changed it so the volume on transactions on the back-end systems is going up with the amount of reach that's generated by the different devices, right? That's part of the creation of the flood of information. So like most things in the IT industry, this convergence of cloud, mobile, social, et cetera, is not an or, it's an and, right? It's more stuff being generated, right? And the systems are having to be refactored, rethought, rebuilt in order to deal with the new reality of these systems as they're going forward. We're used to data that's stacked up nice and neatly in rows and columns, mostly numeric, and that we can build programs to operate on. And in fact, the whole premise of the systems we've been building, whether it's the SAP systems, our relational databases underneath our transactional systems at banks, the whole premise is that you process everything. You have to process all of the deposits before you process the withdrawals, right? You have to make sure you go sequentially through all the information, time-sequenced information. It's the way processing works. As we look at big data, we look at the impact of all of these things, we're starting to see that those systems, that methodology, that idea of deterministic systems is giving way to the idea of probabilistic systems, where the use of analytics and statistics becomes the way you interpret and understand all of that data.